Sarah.
Save the world.
All right. We're gonna, hi. Hello.
Hi, hello.
We're gonna try something new today, which is we didn't make an outline and we don't have a topic.
We actually do have topics that we could do, but
we have several that we're planning to do soon, but they're a little bit more production going into it.
yeah, and some of the topics are heavier, and we have kind of had a heavy past week.
Yeah.
So we're not really in the right headspace to do an episode like that and actually have it be the quality we want it to be.
Right, exactly. And we've been really having a lot of discussions about, what we want to be putting out there and how important the quality is to us. And I think if we've just kind of made up our minds that if we are not in the headspace to create something that's really high quality that we can be proud of, then we would just rather wait.
Yeah.
So I guess that has kind of opened us up to say, what if we make episodes that are slightly different than the bigger, heavier topics that we've been doing once a month-ish.
Yeah, this is just what we think about.
I just always want to think about space.
I watch this thing on Netflix before I go to bed every night now called The Universe. Would highly recommend it. I used to have a very irrational fear of anything associated with outer space. And what I have realized is that these irrational fears I've had since I was a childhood are actually just symbolic of something else. So for outer space, it was the unknown.
Yeah.
It was a lack of trust because you can't trust something that you don't know anything about. It was, I don't know, it was only feeling comfortable with very immediate surroundings and things that I know, because that's how I used to feel about the ocean too. And now I'm actually very fascinated with both of them that used to scare me. So I watch things on outer space and the planets before going to bed every single night.
I love watching that kind of stuff, and I like reading cosmology books and stuff. I really like reading about space stuff that challenges my comprehension, that I'm I understand this, but I feel I just have the faint shape of it, but I can't what do you think it's like to have the mind of an astrophysicist? I cannot imagine what it's like to be yeah, I get it. And I know that it takes a ton of work for them to even understand this stuff. But I just think it's so cool to think about stuff from the Big Bang is just here, and we're made out of it, and we're made out of stars, and there's background radiation that is left over from the Big Bang that's always here. That kind of shit is so cool to me.
And I love learning about other planets and finding out that they used to be drastically different than they are now, and they're kind of learning about what's going to happen to the Earth based on studying these other planets, because the extreme temperature changes and things that are happening on those other planets are really what's going to be happening to our planet because of climate change. So we're actually learning the process of what the planets go through before they completely are inhabitable because they're destroyed.
Yeah.
So learning about Jupiter and all these other planets and things that have happened over billions of years, it's really cool because it kind of makes things seem a long time ago, were those other planets full of life and things happen and now they're kind of dead and this is the last one to go?
I know. Well, okay, what about the question, I can't think of what it's called, the paradox that we're looking for alien life actively, and we've sent signals out into the universe, but we haven't heard anything back, and if someone else is looking too, then why haven't we heard anything? Why is it silent? And that is a really weird paradox that I'm very interested in, because it's to me, the idea that we would be alone in the universe, one, I don't think it's true, but also is the scariest thing. So it is interesting to me why can't we confirm anything yet?
I don't think, we all have our own theories.
Yeah.
I personally think that there's lots of other things out there, but I don't really think that we're how do I say this? I don't think we're good enough to find them, because quite frankly, humans are extremely destructive. We're the most destructive force ever. We kill everything around us. We're killing the planet. Assuming that there is judgment from other beings that we don't know about that exist.
But would there be? Like, I don't know. Like, that's
There might not be.
Or
like,
what if they're just, like, intelligent in different ways than we are, so it's not even, like, on their way. But how big the universe is? Shouldn't there be, like, a billion other types of creatures, like, out in the universe? I don't know.
Maybe we don't even have the capability of seeing them, detecting them, like...
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Like, human science, like, we can't, like, be like, oh, we know. We don't know. We know, like, what we know, which is, like, this much. So, there's so many different ways to look at it, but I don't know. I think there's a reason why we're not connecting with other things, at least on, like, a mainstream level, because I think that we'd probably fuck everything up.
Maybe. Or maybe they're just, like, not carbon-based or something, and they have no way of talking to us. Or maybe they really are, like, in a slightly different reality, so, like, the connection can't come across,
or they just peek in and leave, and that's why there's, like, short instances where people all over the world see the same thing in the sky, and then it's gone, and no one can figure out what the fuck it was. Like, there's so many different things that it could be, but I personally think we're, like, the Cancer of the universe, so... I wouldn't want to have anything to do with this.
Maybe of this planet. I don't know if I think that we could be the Cancer of the universe, because the universe is so big.
But if we start putting all of our trash in outer space...
Yeah, I guess if on a long enough timeline, like, we do get into space travel and stuff, that could be true. I don't know.
The fact that we're already trying to, like, find other planets to go live on because we're kind of, like, fucking up this one.
That's just dumb. Like, we just need to get it together.
It really makes me wonder if humans have existed in so many different ways, and we just live somewhere for X amount of time, fuck it all up, try to go somewhere else, don't make it, start over somehow somewhere. Like,
that's the plot of Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like, they the whole time are, like, searching for this mythical planet, and then they realize, like, that humankind destroyed it in nuclear war, and, like, when they find it, they're like, oh, we already did this. And then it turns out that they, who you think are, like, a futuristic space civilization the whole time, landed on Earth and became us, like, present day us. It was just like, what?
Whoa.
Yeah. And then we just messed up again. Like, it's just, the cycle just repeats.
How crazy also would it be if, like, every time we left, like, Earth and got into outer space, that we immediately, like, went through, like, almost like a time capsule. So, like, when we're viewing the other planets as empty and, like, there's nothing there, we're actually on some different timeline looking at them than, like, what is actually taking place. And for some reason, we enter it every time we get out.
That would be really
And we're
crazy.
just like, God, where is everything? But, like, everything out there is just like, we're right fucking here.
That would be really weird. Like, wouldn't that have to be, like, put there, like, intentionally? I guess not, because we don't know.
Yeah. It's a lot of we don't know.
I like thinking about the idea of entropy and how the universe is, like, moving farther and farther apart, like, because it's constantly expanding. So everything that we can, like, view now is close enough right now, but in a very, very long time. On our scale, but not in that long of a time, like, on the universal scale. Like, nothing will be close enough to see anything else, so everything truly will be alone in the universe. But we're not, because of the time that we exist in.
It's really weird to think about because, like, at that point, like, is there such thing as traveling at faster rates? Like, what even is there? Can we jump timelines? Like, what can we do? Is everything happening all... I don't know!
Well, at that point, like, if we're so far away from everything else, would you even raise the same questions that we're raising now? If there wasn't even any clue? Like, you would just be like, yeah, we're the planet. Isn't that weird? But we wouldn't even be close enough to a sun, so nothing would even be alive anymore anyway, so.
Oh, yeah. We kind of just be
like everything's just gonna, like, the whole universe is eventually not gonna sustain life as it currently does. Isn't that weird?
I don't know. I feel really weird about it because I'm like, then literally what is the point?
Well, it's gonna take, like, trillions of years.
Yeah, that's true. But even then, like, what's the point?
Because trillions of years from now, nothing exists, so what's the point?
But, like, what's the point?
There isn't a point.
There's literally no point.
No, you just get to pick a point, and then you have your own point.
You pick a point, and I feel like the things that, like, we have access to decide what that point is unique to everyone.
Yeah, totally. And, like, pick a good point and, like, be good to your fellow man, and by man I mean women.
Mm-hmm.
But no, be good to, like, fellow human beings around you, and that's the point. And bang aliens.
I'm like so in thought. Like, okay. Past, present, future are happening all at once. So let's say. Which would explain how some people do have like, you know, psychic abilities and they can say things before they happen, or like the Mayans or whatever. They did predict 1 billion things that ended up happening.
I don't know if I believe in any of that.
I really do. Not all of it, but some of it. And that would be possible if certain people did have the ability to look into that timeline and see what's there instead of just seeing what's here, which makes sense. And I do believe that it is possible for some people to have gifts like that. Not most people, though. So when I think about it that way, I'm like, I guess it gets to a hard point because then you're trying to differentiate between mental illness and ability, which is a pretty fine fucking line. But then there's the question of, like in movies that they've presented is, what if a lot of things that we see as mental illness actually are abilities? So how do you decide? How do you differentiate?
I don't know. I think there's probably like not abilities because there's just not a lot of like evidence that there are.
But I don't think that there would be.
Yeah, I guess if you say like it can't be proven, but that's like the same argument that people use about like God.
Well, I think that there's a lot of common denominators across like religion of things that probably did take place, but it's a different interpretation of the events. But there are common things that people like everywhere all kind of like have seen in the same types of ways. So I think that where it becomes flawed, in my personal opinion, is when you turn it into an organized religion and say, this is what that meant according to this one person. But when we look at like religion on a wider spectrum of like things that like are everyone was saying at different parts of the world around the same time and seeing the same things, I think when we look at that through like a more like open-minded like spiritual take on it, we can say like there were things going on that no one really knew how to explain. Could it be because we didn't have developed science at that point? Partially, probably.
Yeah.
But on top of that, there could be something that's much bigger. And if it's something that people felt on a more intuitive level when they were more connected to the planet than they are now, I think that opens the door for there to be things that our science doesn't know how to explain.
Yeah.
And it could just be a matter of time until they blend together and we could just be here, but in here it'll make sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I think science will probably be able to explain most things based on how, like, from what I've seen, like, most scientists are just really dedicated to pursuing the truth, you know? And a lot of it, like, really isn't, like, corrupted. Especially stuff like that doesn't have, like, big financial motivations to prove, like, in the contrary. You know, I think with, like, certain things, like science about nutrition or science about, pharmaceuticals and stuff, when there's like big companies like lobbying for certain results and certain like almost like a mythos around what's true to influence consumers, I think that it sucks because it makes like science kind of seem like less trustworthy in certain aspects, but then I'm like, overall though, I think that it is really trustworthy.
I think it's trustworthy with most things and under certain contexts. Like, I think it's naive to assume that our current science and our human brains really is like, we have the answers, we can prove most things. I think that we can prove what most people's brains are capable of conceiving. Well, and that's about it.
If you think the simulation theory is true, which it is, like the reason that our human brains are so good at understanding the world is because we're part of the same programming. So all the rules are written a certain way, so we get them because we're written by the same rules. Isn't that crazy to think about? Like, all the math makes so much sense because it's a computer program.
I guess that could be real. Though, when I think about stuff like that, I'm like, I'm like, well, maybe that's our fascination with video games too.
Yeah, totally.
It's like inside of inside of inside is like the same thing.
But like, scientists have said like, scientists have said, I don't know, maybe I'll find the source for this. Like the math that we determine about the universe like makes a lot of sense and like beautifully and magically like lines up with the universe, which would be consistent with like something that was like, okay, theologists who are like arguing that God is real have used like an intelligent design type of argument, saying like things add up to perfectly, like everything seems like it's consistent with having been designed. And that's kind of the same thing as the simulation theory, which makes me think like it's probably not really true. Like it's just convenient because you can just argue like if things make sense, then it means that somebody designed it to make sense, you know?
I think what religious thought, simulation theory thought, and spiritual thought all have in common is that there is some kind of harmony to things.
Yeah.
Things do seem very connected and like almost too perfect in a way. I think that I personally feel like the truth is a middle point between all of it, because I think that the reason why religion is so believable to many people is because it's been somewhat historically documented and interpreted. However, with an agenda in mind behind this, it doesn't really make their interpretation like factual or believable.
Yeah.
And that's why I actually lean more towards the spiritual side, because there isn't a real agenda. It's literally just understanding our purpose and like tapping into things that's really outside of like just what we see and think about every day, and connecting us more in a natural way to the universe.
Yeah, I think
which
spirituality is so important, because I think it's good to be connected with your own mind, which is really just a thing that is like you're a witness of, like you're witnessing your mind, and you don't really get to control your mind so much as experience your mind, which is crazy but really cool. And I think it's really important to connect with your mind and to connect with your body and to connect with our planet. Like I just think those are like so important, and those are things that are really, really easy to neglect if you're caught up like in a grind or like hustle lifestyle.
And
then you're neglecting spirituality. And spirituality doesn't even have to be like supernatural like in any way. Like it's literally just
for
like
everyone.
Yeah, like that's what's cool about it, is it's not like a religion where it's like these are the rules, you know?
Yeah.
Because it really is just that connection to yourself and then to like a bigger like purpose, I think.
It's kind of like a connection to universal consciousness, and that's another like thing where when we were younger, I feel like there was a lot more separation between science and spirituality. And you know, people have said for a very long time in spiritual groups that as time goes on, science and spirituality are not going to be so separated. We're going to finally have the information that scientists need to say this.
Right.
That they're actually not that different, and they blend together, and a lot of this stuff does make sense. And it is starting to happen, because a lot of the theories that are presented now that are talked about, at least to my knowledge, when I was a kid, were not being talked about.
Yeah,
and now
so true.
there is a blending of it. And I feel like as time goes on, science and spirituality are going to be a lot more connected, and things that we thought like, no, it's this, it can't be this, they're going to start making sense.
Well, yeah, like we're noticing like the importance of, while there are a lot of negatives and a lot of drawbacks to organized religion, there's a lot of importance in like ritual and ceremony and connectedness with like a group of people that you feel like you're in fellowship with. Like that's really, really important to kind of like a healthy human psyche.
Yeah, we're finding out like what things actually make us healthy.
Right.
And it's not a lot of things that we thought that it was.
Yeah.
And a lot of things that are normalized through like capitalism are terrible for us.
Yep.
And when we separate from those and we get more into rituals and connecting to like the natural elements in the earth and soul development, like anything that, whatever layer you want to go with it, we find that people live like way better. Like way better quality of life.
Yeah, much higher quality of life.
And that's not a coincidence.
No, not at all. And I think for a lot of people, like there can be like there's like extremes. Like, okay, I think I've said, like, briefly mentioned, like, I was raised in a secular home, but not like secular to where my parents were never like, there's no such thing as God to me. It's just like, we didn't go to church, we didn't have any kind of religious beliefs that were like taught to me or my sister. And so then, like, through that, I got, like, really hardcore into, like, atheism, but, like, the shitty, mean kind.
It's a phase.
Yeah.
It always starts that way.
Like, and now, even now, it's, like, when I first started saying a few years ago now that, like, spirituality was important to me, like, that shitty, mean atheist in my mind was, like, spirituality is stupid. But spirituality, like, literally just means, like, connectedness with your own, like, inner being and your own consciousness. And, like, I think it's so interesting that, like, people don't take the time to experience their own self.
Yep.
Like, and their own mind.
Or, like, everything around us that matters.
Right, exactly.
That we didn't build.
But I get it, because we are so surrounded by distractions. And actually, we could probably do a whole episode on this of, like, the sensory overload of existing in the world that we exist in, and how not just your phone, but, like, everything is a huge distraction.
Everything.
And not just a distraction, but almost everything is, like, and maybe this is kind of, like, ironic to say on YouTube, but everything is an advertisement, and everything is trying to influence you and tell you, like, what to do, what to buy, how to spend your time, what's important, what your values are. Like, you are not determining these things for yourself.
We're not. And if we think that we are, we're not paying attention and we're not understanding how influence works.
Yeah.
I think what I personally really like about... Okay, backtrack. You're talking about your childhood. I was raised, I guess, kind of similar, except maybe with a little bit more conflicting extremes. So growing up, like, neither of my parents are religious. My mom, I would say, is more agnostic. She's very much under the belief of, we don't know, and that's okay. My dad, on the other end, raging atheist. Everything, nothing exists, souls don't exist, like, just complete black hole nothingness. But growing up in the South, constantly surrounded by religious fanatics. Most of my friends' parents were religious, so I went to church with them. I got to experience every kind of church. And I can say now, like, being, like, an adult, I consider myself very spiritual, and it has increased a lot over the past couple of years as I've connected more to my inner self and my natural surroundings on Earth.
Yep.
When I was a teenager, I think that I was atheist, but also that's part of, like, being, like, a dramatic, like, immature goth kid.
Yeah,
so.
It definitely started for me as being, like, an immature goth kid, but then I got super into, like, Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins and all those mean people, who now I'm like, they're really mean, and, like...
I don't value meanness the way that I did when I was younger, which is a weird thing to say. Why did we ever?
What? Whoa. No, but truly, I think like rejecting things is, like, feels good, and just being, like, against things feels good. It's definitely, like, a place to put all your rage that you have growing up. I've always been a person who's kind of filled with, like, underlying rage.
Me too.
And, like, not trusting authority and, like, questioning the rules that we're told. You know,
I
like,
think
just
that's
not
part
taking
of
things at
being
face
smart.
value. But yeah,
I guess it
so.
just...
Not even, like, smart, but, like, part of being on the path to breaking out of what we're told is, like, what we're supposed to do.
That's about individuality and finding out the real truth, though. But I think that when you're a teenager, it's easy to go in an extreme direction.
Yeah.
But, like... I'm trying to think how to explain this. I personally feel like it's just as ignorant to be atheist as it is to wholeheartedly believe in organized religion without a doubt.
I definitely still would say, like, I am an atheist, but I don't think that that's, like, any part of my identity or, like, an idea that I'm attached to, you know? But I don't believe there's, like, any deistic, like, nature of the universe, if that makes sense.
I don't think that there is in a religious sense. I think that there is the possibility that there is something bigger that made everything, but not in a human way that we portray gods in organized religion that have human-like feelings and motives and qualities. I don't think that it's something that could be conceivable to our minds, and it's definitely nothing like humans, if there is something.
Yeah, oh, definitely not that there's like a human deity. But I also just like, for me, I don't really think like, I guess to me, like the way I'm saying like I'm an atheist, but also like if someone told me like, no, like kind of a weird bigger consciousness like made the world, I would be like, okay, that doesn't really like make a difference in my day-to-day life. Like at
Really?
all. Yeah, I would just be like, all right.
I feel like I would have a fascination with wanting to know why and understanding more and like...
Because to me, like whatever that would be, like just would sound like something that doesn't like experience consciousness the way that we do. Like it wouldn't have done it on purpose.
Maybe
Like
not.
I don't know. I don't think that from everything like that I've read about the creation of the universe, which I really am fascinated with, there's no reason to believe that there was any kind of intervention. Like they've done the math to prove how something can literally be created out of nothing.
I definitely think that that's true. I just don't think that we know why or how to the full extent. And I think that without being able to like say with certainty, it leaves like question marks, and that's kind of like why being agnostic.
Yeah, I
is
think
always appealed to me.
that's for me. There is no why. Like there is no why. Like I don't think our world like works that way.
Really?
Yeah, like I think things just happen.
I don't know. I go back and forth on
Yeah.
everything, and I guess that's why I'm more so classified, or I classified mostly as agnostic, but now I guess more spiritual. Can you be spiritually agnostic? I don't.
Well, I think you can be spiritual and be an atheist. Because I don't think spirituality has anything to do with anything supernatural.
Well, what if there is no such thing as supernatural, and all of those things really are just what they are, and they're not supernatural, like they're normal?
Right. Yeah. Like if we found that out, then that would just be like whatever. Like we just find that out. Does that make sense? I'm just kind of like, yeah, if we find that stuff out, then it's true. And I've gone through like hardcore phases where I'm like talking to ghosts and like recording EVPs, and then after that being like, I'm a hardcore atheist, like nothing is real. You know, like you were talking about, like there's no souls, like there's nothing. And now I'm still just like, I think that the concept of what a soul is an important concept to our human understanding of the world. But I don't think there's like a physical soul.
I feel like there is, but not everyone has it.
That's interesting.
Like, I've gone back and forth on this shit so much too.
Yeah.
Where I've been like, everyone has a soul, everyone's inherently good. Then I changed it to like, no, we absolutely fucking don't. No one has a soul. Now I'm at like, I think that some people are literally just vessels. And I think that psychopaths don't have souls.
Yeah, I definitely think that, like, the concept of a soul being like a caring and like empathetic person. But to me, a soul is like a true self type of concept.
Yeah, I think it's a true self, but I also think it's something that we can't measure.
But a
fully.
psychopath doesn't have a self. But then I've read stuff from people who are like really, really into meditation and stuff, and they're like, no one has a self. Like, there's no such thing as a self. There's just consciousness.
Yeah, because they're talking about self in the form of like it being, I guess, like finalized in who you are in your human body, but it's something so much greater than that.
Well, and that if you like get really, really deep in a meditative state and keep going like deeper and deeper, and you look for a self, you just can never find it. Like, it's not there.
What if you can't find it because at that point you are like the part of you that is the soul, and you can't see anything else outside of you?
Yeah, maybe.
Like, there's so many like, and what if.
I know.
Where I'm currently landed is I don't think everyone has a soul.
I definitely would say like psychopaths, like you could just represent that as the absence of a soul, and that would mean like exactly the same thing as what psychopathy means.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know what I mean?
I don't know.
I just think it's like a framework for like you looking at the world, or looking at human selves, if that makes sense, for what a soul is.
I just think that some people are very different than others, and in ways that we don't fully know how to explain, and it's just a felt sense type of thing.
Yeah.
I think that some people have abilities.
It sounds like They. Is it called They?
What is it?
The horror movie where like some people are people, but other people are alien imposters.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
No, but
We
that
should,
sounds
we should
really
watch
cool.
that in our Discord.
Hell yeah.
It's really good.
No, I know that like this is kind of like a kind of old example of like proving or not proving, but like, do you remember in that Bill Maher documentary Religulous?
Yeah.
Like that we watched like forever ago.
Mhm.
There was one thing about it that he said in that like always stood out to me forever, regardless of
Well,
what
he
you think of
sucks,
him or
yeah.
anything. But like one thing he said was, "I'm a believer in we don't know."
Mm-hmm.
Which means that you can't close the door completely and you can't leave it open and say it's that we don't know. So, like, that's why I think that it's weird to say absolutely yes and absolutely no to what everything is and isn't. I think that there's a lot of similarities of things that happen and it's just different interpretations of it. But I don't think having a solid black and white look on it, it leaves room for us to say, like, we can't, maybe we don't know right now at this current point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe in like 500 billion years from now, science could prove the things that we can't prove now. And I think taking that into account really helps too, to show, like, we know, like, this, but we don't know what we're going to know further down the line. And what if there are people who already know these things, but in our current, like, day, they would look insane.
I know for me, when I've really wanted to believe, like, heavily in supernatural stuff, it's always represented, like, just huge dissatisfaction with the world.
That's learning about psychology and that aspect of it, like, the people that gravitate towards this has made me go back and question a lot of things that, like, I've actively wanted to believe in. Like, you know, being younger and, like, literally arguing people to the death about why vampires could exist.
Yeah.
I realize that comes from a place of not fitting in and wanting a reality where these things are real. But I also technically still think that there could be a way. There could exist. Like, we can't rule it out 100% yet. Anyway, so I definitely see, like, the psychological, like, analysis of, like, people like that.
I just know, like, that's been my experience. Like, I want to know about a world that no one else knows about.
Like, that no one else knows? Oh, so that you could go be in it?
So that I could just, like, have, like, a secret thing that I know about. Like in books, you know, where there's, like, I was really into the category of fantasy called, like, Border Town fantasy. So it's, like, the fairy world is just, like, on the edge of the human world and you can cross into it, but, like, most people can't tell it's there. But some people can. Like, and I always...
That's really cool.
I know. I love that kind of concept. So I can very easily get, like, not really so much anymore, but, like, in the past, I could very easily, like, let myself believe in stuff because I just wanted that kind of thing to be true.
But also,
like, some dude could have been like, I'm a fairy prince, and I'd be like, yeah.
But, like, okay, what about the actual power that comes from everyone doing the same thing or believing the same thing at the same time and things like that? Like, that's the side where I'm like, I wonder, could we all think something into existence?
I don't think so.
I think we might be able to, but I don't think we're ever going to see, like, a real possibility to see that because no one's ever going to
So, like, if we might be able to, but we'll never accomplish it, like, does it matter? That's kind of my stance on stuff, too. Like, if it could be proven or if it could be real, but we'll never really know, then to me, I'm like, well, I just am not really going to, like, spend time on it.
I feel like it's still fascinating because maybe, like, right now...
I know, but
okay, like, hear me out. We have a world meeting. We get
Today.
everyone on board that actively believes in vampires, and at the same moment, we all go. We are like meditating in unison about vampires. I think that vampires would exist. I think that
like where?
I don't know.
Did you just see one like in the middle of the world meeting?
I genuinely think like something would open up and fucking Damon Salvatore would walk out and I would be like, I knew it! Yeah. That's what I think. Yeah. I really do.
I'm down. I'm for it.
I really do. Like, this is where, like, if you have the complete division between, like, spirituality and psychology, like, you can look like you're insane, and I like to make a gray area in between.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there's a connection, but I also think that there can be things that happen to you that make you go so far off one side to where you are convincing yourself of things just to like make your life worth living.
Yes.
But I do think that there is a gray area where they could overlap, and I think that's where science needs to come in and be there, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but I think we're getting there.
That's definitely where I was at with like believing in ghosts and stuff, to the point where I just like wanted a different truth to be the truth, like so hard.
I have like literally physically seen ghosts with multiple people with me.
I mean, so have I, but I still don't think that it was like real. Like I'm like, there just has to be another explanation. Even though I've like, in my mind, have seen things that I'm like, that was a ghost, I'm still also like, but clearly it just wasn't.
Why?
Because there's no evidence at all.
But that's what I'm saying though, like there could be things that maybe like 400 years from now we can easily prove with evidence, but now we can't.
But why? Like what would change?
It would just become an accepted thing. You wouldn't be the crazy person who
But
is
okay,
like,
but if it becomes true 400 years from now, it's effectively not true right now, because there's no way of knowing, and it doesn't affect my life one way or the other. You know what I mean?
If you base truth on just what people can say right now, but if you have experienced something and you can trust your own eyes, then...
Okay, but I don't think that like those things could like harm me or like actually affect my life. You know what I mean?
They could. They could not, but either way you saw what you saw.
I guess, but like there could always be another explanation.
And one of those could be that it's ghosts.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I think if you place way too much faith in like what science has been able to prove right now,
Yeah.
then you're limiting yourself. But I also think if you place way too much faith in like this huge openness of like, I saw it, this is immediately what it is because I know, I think they're both really extremes.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the gray area is. Like,
yeah.
Like, I know I've seen ghosts. I don't know what that means. Does that mean that demons could exist, which would make certain parts of the Bible... Like,
that's the other thing. Like, I always am afraid of, like, demons and monsters, but I also don't think that's real. Like, so I make no sense. Like, I am just contradictory.
I think it's real, but not the way that we think that it's real. And I think that the ways that we portray it in a lot of, like, horror movies, and the way that we portray it in, I guess, like, the way people talk about, like, interpretations of the Bible, I think that these things are illustrated in a way to prey on our deepest fears. But I also do think that there is something. I think that there could be things that are inherently what we interpret as bad. But I don't think that it's the way that it's being sold to us through organized religion.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that. Like, that's just a big no. Like, sorry, no.
Those are literally founded on fear. So I don't believe in something that is founded on fear. But I do think that fear is legit and there are things to be fearful of. So it's kind of confusing.
Yeah, I think fear is legit, but I don't think there's, like, supernatural stuff to be afraid of, probably. Like, I don't think so.
I think that there definitely should be. And if there isn't, I'm very upset because we suck!
Yeah.
We seriously suck!
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I get very trapped in, like, not even just, okay, let's take another example. I always wanted vampires to be real. I literally, like, a girlfriend of mine and I in high school, like, drank each other's blood because we wanted vampires to be real.
I was the only one who did stuff like that.
Did you do that? Leave a comment down below.
The comments, no.
People are like, no, I have, like, scars from, like, vampirism. But,
I do too.
That's hilarious. This is why we're now making a show together.
Yes. Because we were destined through vampires.
No, we thought that if we just acted like vampires, we would just be them. Like, we're like, and we'll just start to only be awake at night, and we'll start to, like...
Okay, but what about, you know how, like, there's been, like, this...
And then we literally, like, researched other crazy people who also thought they were vampires.
I had a boyfriend in high school who believed he was a vampire.
He probably was.
But, like, okay, what I was going to say is, like, you know how, like, we've known that, like, women now, they can psychologically convince themselves that they're pregnant when they're not and they start lactating?
Yeah.
So, hear me out.
Uh-huh.
If we have the ability to change things in our bodies with a simple thought like that, I'm sorry, I don't know what else we can do.
Well, okay, but that one makes sense because it's your body producing hormones that are like pregnancy hormones which cause you to lactate, but I don't think you can make your body produce hormones that cause you to survive off of blood.
But what if you could?
So what started as a discussion of how we create a scenario to bring aliens to Earth turned into like, I think a cool discussion about like the world kind of.
The world, the universe, like what things are, what we don't know. Yeah, all that.
Yeah. So let us know if you guys liked this like not at all scripted format. But even if you didn't like it, we'll probably have to do it again in the future. Because like we said, we are committing to making sure we put out really high quality like main episodes. And if we can't do that, we still want to be able to make an episode. So it's going to get weird because we're weird.
We definitely have to have periods where we don't make like super heavy episodes because we just won't be all in it.
Yeah.
So you get weird ones like this.
Please subscribe to our YouTube channel or rate us on iTunes or wherever you're listening to podcasts. Click the thumbs up because that helps YouTube tell other people to watch our show, which helps us keep making the show.
Yes. Follow our page on Instagram.
Yeah.
Follow our page on Twitter.
And if you want, we do have a Patreon now where you can get some extra stuff and you can support us and help us make the show. And
Yes.
we really appreciate it.
We really do.
Yeah. Also, thank you to these people who are probably in here.
We're probably gonna put the names here.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thanks
for supporting us on Patreon.
Thanks
Yes.
to the people here in this general region.
We should break our arms.
Yeah. Here.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.